everybody, and welcome to the innovation stage. I'm Z, and I'm CEO at Picnic Bank. So like many of you, you're working in digital or in startups. And what I've found is my parents can never understand what I'm doing, cannot describe it to their friends. So finally, mum and dad, I'm doing something very simple. I'm starting a bank in climate change and poverty. So we are exclusively inclusive, and we're here to help you change things across the world that haven't been done before by a traditional bank. It's not clicking. Okay. So what is climate fintech? It's a conscious, positive, habit-forming array of fun. So we think that instead of making you feel guilty about things, we want to inspire you with your shopping habits, the way you travel, and what you do on the day-to-day. We want to be part of global carbon neutrality by 2060 and inspire you and brands here today to take that step forward. We're looking at $3 trillion investment over the next 3 years to keep people and the planet at a safe 1.5 degree warming scenario. So this is the full definition. What is climate fintech? So if you're at home, please take a screenshot, and if you're in the audience, take a photo. So this is really important to remember and tweet it out, because hopefully you'll be seeing a lot of this in the future. So embracing nudge theory and habit stack is truly important on a day-to-day basis. And as we know, the world's richest are unfortunately causing double the amount of CO2 emissions and the poorest 50% in the world. So hopefully private jets will be a thing of the past, or be using them much more sparingly. So how are we going to master our money in 2021? We think it's through AI and personal banking feeling, looking at influences in fintech, people like Obama who realize we need to do something now, and also banking as a service is a wonderful invention. It's almost like a Lego stack of building a bank, so we can push forward innovation much more quickly. So what is the bank of the future? We think it will come to you. So Gen Zs and millennials are very much want to check their accounts all the time. What am I investing in? What's my crypto doing? I think on average they look at their phones 68 times a day, just on banking or crypto. Things like drive-in banking in Africa have really pushed forward how we see a bank. So if they want to deposit what they've earned that day, it's a much safer way of banking. So let's look at some headlines. Purpose and inspiration behind what we're doing. Everyone from Tesco, who started a sustainability fund, to Copper, who have built a bank just for teens, and Climate that overfunded by nearly 600% for ECG investment. So we can really see people are pushing towards the ESG space in a really big way. It's actually 5 times the average growth rate of all industries right now. And I'm sure we all feel very strongly about this coming out of COVID, that we want to make real change happen now and not lose that momentum. So things like climate tech, the Paris Agreement, so COP26 will be in Glasgow this year, so that's a very exciting event for the UK to be holding. The UN Sustainable Development Goals and creating GovTech for good is a very important step for us. So here are some climate techs that are doing extremely well. And as you can see, it's a pretty packed slide. And you can, from 2013, where there was only 418 million invested in climate tech, you can see there's a huge jump to 2019, where it's 16 billion. Now, something very close to my heart is job creation, especially in the BIPOC communities. And we were really embracing that as we're launching in places like Brazil and Africa. So creating jobs and keeping the value in those countries is extremely important to us. And here are some great examples of the circular economy that have raised very largely in the last couple of years. So here's an overview of the banks that are looking in this direction right now. We have everyone from Tridios to Aspiration in the US, City First, Engage, and Lloyds Bank is regularly in the top 5 ethical banks in the UK, which we're very proud of. This is a traditional way of how they make money, so we can look at ways we can improve this in more ethical sources. So if you like this, more of these slides, please email me and I'm happy to send them. So you'll be glad to hear millennials and Gen Zs in the audience that you are the most savvy generation with your finances. So I'm very impressed with that. And obviously we can take that to the next level using data. So we think, and I've spoken to lots of different fintechs, that group banking could be a big part of this. As we noticed through the COVID situation, that our parents found it difficult to go to banks, use the phone. So creating group banking for a multitude of reasons could be a very interesting step forward in creating better credit ratings for people, and also kid entrepreneur accounts, so that we're investing straight away in the next generation. So this is a very exciting. Hello? Hello? You can hear it. Okay. So here's the deeper dive into the Gen Z and millennials against climate action. And as you can see, they're really addressing the problem and actually engaging in social media and doing a range of tasks to push forward Planet Earth first. So, prediction to marketing. We see this as much more experiential, exciting. And looking at some of the other examples of brands, we think stunts is a really big and fun way to push forwards climate change and making a difference. So how do we bring the fun factor to finance? It's such a large part of all of our lives. So we're looking at creating an eco-concierge, so that every day when you shop and travel and interact with your friends, be able to see what you're doing, how the data is affecting you, offering you choices that are better for the planet. So here's some surprising stats that you might not be aware of. So 68% of animals are now extinct because of humanity, and also 80% of forests have now been lost. And sadly, within the mental health crisis, 1 in 10 ambulances over COVID were called out for help with mental health issues. So it'd be great to help support people in a number of ways. So next horizons, how can we change this? There's something called nano satellites, which is very exciting, that can track how we deliver packages. And I'm sure a lot of us were sitting on Amazon over COVID times, so knowing that your package is being delivered in the best possible way is very important. And if we look at virtuous circles in developing countries, so keeping the value within the country, if that's through food or mining, how can we keep those jobs within that country rather than literally flying it straight out and losing that value? So we're looking at working with lots of brands throughout the world to try and do this. There's some great quotes around this using data and gamification. And one of the companies that's doing best at this is Doconomy, who have created an index for fintechs and other companies to start actually really seeing what every action that they do makes a difference either way. So we think they're fantastic. This is another fantastic stat. So 68 trillion will be handed down from baby boomers to the millennials. With those the next 10 years. So this is a really interesting point where we can now start behaving and investing in a much more sustainable way. This is a really big turning point in history. And looking at things like the SDGs for guidance and pushing forward to help crossing that wealth gap as well. So obviously, I couldn't do a talk about climate fintech without mentioning blockchain. And many of us have been licking our wounds over that in the last few weeks. So how can blockchain really help us heal the planet? So recently, as you well know, Elon Musk has spoken about the energy consumption, and this affected the marketplace in a very negative way. And there are brands that are trying to address this problem, like FTX and BitMEX. Also, blockchain has been fantastic for women, and Make Impact has helped 44% of women that had never invested before learn to invest. I very much love this quote. Every purchase determines the world we live in, one payment at a time. We're going to change the world. So this is, I think, is a very strong and interesting way of looking at your transactions in the day. And just to prove how wonderful this is, Tink recently got bought by Visa for 1.8 billion. So we can definitely see people really taking this seriously now and using their behavior or footprints. They've actually lowered the way we carbon footprint by 20% for the average user within a week. So it's absolutely fantastic. This is an overview. Looking at Dogecoin, definitely has lower energy than the other ones. So another beautiful way of using blockchain is to store identity, as you know. And we at Picnic Bank think that the future of customer service is very much individual and personalized. So we can now create exact versions of, as you can see, celebrities. And we will be doing this for customer service, helpers, and personal trainers for your bank account. So we'll make it much more interesting, playful, and fun. So what is fractional ownership? We definitely see this as part of the future and of helping people in developing countries. So speaking to a lot of people in Africa, owning your own home is such an important step along that journey. And often people earn that money and spend it on food in the evening, so they don't even deposit that into their bank accounts. So they will never be able to build a credit rating. So we're looking at ways of how we can create value, shared bank accounts, so that people will be able to buy and afford sustainable housing in the future. We also see that agricultural land and water sustainability is extremely important. I don't know if any of you are watching Jeremy Clarkson at the moment, that he's just bought a farm. And one of the consultants actually said to him that even in the UK, in 50 to 100 years, our agricultural land will be unusable because we're not farming in a sustainable way. So one of our pledges is to start protecting agricultural land and building ecosystems. So which type of person are you? Are you more punch today in the face kind of person, or more of a Zen feel around everything changes, everything is connected, and pay attention? Because we need to make serious changes right now. Time is definitely up for this generation. As you probably all know, last week in Canada, there was 180 forest fires and over 1 billion sea animals were burnt to death on the beaches because of climate change. So we're proposing to do an event next year on creating a Big Brother house of genius to get these kind of people together and yourselves to look at how we can solve poverty and climate change. So I look forward to welcoming you to that. So stay in touch, and I'm open to any questions from the audience.
What a presentation, what a bold ambition as well. We've got the opportunity to ask questions through the app. So do log in and then post your questions. We'll come up and then I'll ask those questions for you. But Zee, I've got some questions for you. I mean, obviously you're targeting quite a young audience.
Yeah.
What about like older generations? Are they engaging in these topics? Like, what's the focus?
Yeah, so we've actually got a senior advisory board for the bank because, like you've just said, we feel it's very important to help everybody look at their habits and also help the older generation with their bank accounts with things like COVID. So we've got someone from the World Economic Forum sitting on our board, and we've got 2 other people in their 70s, so that while we're creating these experiences for the younger generation, we'll definitely simplify this down and create apps for senior people as well. It's extremely important.
Okay, very cool. And the start of 68 billion being transferred from boomers down to the next generation, I mean, that's quite interesting in itself. How do you think that will change consumer spending, banking products?
Yeah, so I think especially with COVID, it's made us really realize how important everyday spending is and working with our communities. And, you know, as we could see from the stats, that millennials and Gen Zs really feel that this is very central. So I think that the way they invest, the way they interact with their phones, that it's definitely changing. In the old days, you know, people would be on the golf course or they'd spend a couple of hours drinking whiskey with their, you know, IFA. But the younger generation is definitely not about that. They're about seeing change, seeing what they're investing in. As we know, some of the traditional banks, even though they would say this is completely ethical investment, there would be, you know, terms and conditions at the bottom, and actually saying 5% is still being invested in weapons and oil and things like that. So we don't want to be doing that at all with Picnic.
And for brands, I mean, obviously purpose and the planet and exclusively inclusive and all that sort of stuff, I mean, it's very deep in your DNA.
Yep.
How do brands get a balance between, you know, getting back to their purpose and all of the stuff around that and juggling that with profit and everything else?
Absolutely. So we're actually working with one of the ex-directors of Argos, who works with 150 brands worldwide. And we are going to create missions with the brands. So not only are we bringing people along that are our customers and with the social network that we're creating, but we're bringing brands with us as well. So just giving one example. So for example, if you want to go and pick up rubbish on the beach, you know, we want people to start picking up rubbish. So we could talk to local pubs and cafes, local breweries, and say, look, if these guys go and pick up rubbish on the beach and make a real effort, they can then come to you and have a nice free beer or coffee on the house. Okay. So, you know, exacting change, but making it fun.
That's quite cool. That's a lot of work to engage those local pubs and clubs and restaurants.
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually talking to somebody that does gamification for a living, and she works on things like how to be a millionaire and lots of TV quizzes. So again, we really want to hit, you know, mass personalization and engage people.
Okay, very cool. Just a reminder, there's an opportunity to ask questions on the app, so do make the most of that. But I've got one last question for you. Which celeb are you going to be using for your customer experience?
Well, yeah, I think rappers are pretty cool. So I can shortlist a few of those. And I used to work a bit in the film industry, so I'm sure I can talk to some of my friends and talk them into helping out in climate change.
Love that. Awesome. Thank you, Zee.